If you want to know the 7 rules that I've discovered over my life, over the past decade of lifting training to get jacked, to get lean, to build muscle, and most importantly to maintain your results for the rest of your life, then stay tuned, because today I'm going to go over the 7 things that you need to implement in the gym and outside of the gym to make sure that you get results, you get jacked, you get shredded, you get lean, and you accomplish your fitness and health goals. Let's go ahead and dive right in. So the first thing that we gotta do when it comes to fitness, and I think that this applies to anything you're doing in life, is planning. Taking a step back and planning things. Okay, when it comes to fitness, you have different phases. You have fat loss, maintenance, and massing phases. So you wanna implement the right phase at the right time. And you wanna make sure that you give yourself time to go through all the phases in your fitness journey. And the way you do that is by planning appropriately according to the goals that you have. For example, if you're someone who has a lot of fat to lose, then you start with a fat loss phase, and then you would alternate between fat loss and maintenance phases until you hit your goal. If you're someone who's skinny, very, very skinny, almost no fat, then you would do a massing phase, and you would alternate between massing, maintenance, and mini cuts to hit your goal. Take a step back, look at where you're at now, look at where you want to be, and look at what's going to be required for you to get from where you are to where you want to be. Plan appropriately, plan your phases, and stick to the plan. Most people just go to the gym and they wing it, they don't know what they're doing, and they just go and lift. And that works for a little bit, but without planning, then the chances of succeeding go down. Plan appropriately. Number 2, you gotta eat sufficient protein year round. Vegans, specifically for you guys that don't eat a lot of protein, vegans have a war against protein. And guess what? If you wanna build muscles, if you wanna look toned, if you wanna look jacked and shredded, you need to consume sufficient protein. How much protein is that? Around 0.8 to 1.3 grams per pound of body weight. Somewhere between that range, you're gonna be fine. But you gotta consume this year round. You gotta make sure you're giving your body enough amino acids and enough protein to build new muscle, to repair your muscle, and to maintain the muscle that you already have. If you stop eating protein for a long period of time, you will lose muscle. So eating sufficient protein year round is key to stay in shape, to stay shredded, and to maintain muscle mass. Progressive overload. And this is important, and progressive overload is really hard because most people do not push themselves in the gym. I go to the gym every single day and I see the amount of effort that people put into their training, and they're not pushing themselves as hard as they could. You need to push yourself. You need to learn your boundaries. You need to learn what's it gonna take for you to grow. You need to learn what your body can adapt to. And the way you do that, the way you progressively overload, is by making sure that your lifts are progressing over time. So you're gonna keep a logbook. You're gonna keep everything logged. You're gonna see exactly what you've done and what you're doing now. For example, if you see your log and you see that 6 months ago you did squats and you did 3 sets of 10 with 225, and it was like a 8 out of 10 RPE, so 8 out of 10 in difficultness. And today, last week, you did 3 sets of 12 with 245, then you know you made progress because you added more weight and you did more reps. So you gotta keep a log of what you're doing, and you gotta make sure that you are getting stronger over time, year after year. If you're not, then you're not gonna give your body a reason to grow. Get strong, progressively overload. You can add more weight, you can add more sets, or you can add more repetitions, or a combination of everything. Progressive overload is key. So the next point is to make sure that you know when to be strict and when to be lenient with your diet. So there are times where you're gonna have to be very strict with your nutrition, and there are times where you can take a step back and just relax a little bit. For example, if you're in a fat loss phase, this is when you have to be strict. This is when you gotta push on the pedal and make sure you're hitting your calories, you're hitting your macros, you're tracking everything, and you're being consistent every single day with your nutrition, with your steps, and if you're doing cardio, with your cardio. Why do we need to be strict in the fat loss phase? Because we don't have a lot of calories to play around, and we wanna hit a goal. We wanna make sure we lose body fat, we lose weight, and we don't have a long amount of time. Fat loss phases are usually 10 to 12 weeks, sometimes 16. So you got just a small time frame to hit your goals, to hit your nutrition, to hit your training hard, and then you're gonna take a break. So fat loss phases, be very strict. Now, you can be a little more lenient when you're in maintenance phases and on massing phases, because on both of those phases, you're going to have more calories to play around with. When you're in a maintenance phase, you can take 2 to 3 days per week where you don't really track, where you play it by feel. And when you're in a massing phase, you can even have 2 to 3 days a week where you actually eat out and enjoy a meal outside. And again, you can have another 3 days where you don't track anything. You do it by feel. But be strict on your fat loss phases and be a bit more lenient on your maintenance and massing phases. And this leads to my next point. You gotta learn to track. You gotta learn to track. A lot of people are against calorie tracking and macro tracking, but the reality is, it's just like accounting for your body. You gotta make sure you understand what it takes for you to gain muscle, for you to gain weight, for you to lose weight. You gotta know how many calories are in certain foods, how many calories are in other foods. You gotta know what you're eating when you're eating something, if you're eating protein, carbs, or fats. And the only way to learn is to go through the tracking process. Now, you will not have to track 100% all the time forever, but if you're just starting out, you gotta go through this process. I always like to use the analogy of a business. If you run a business, you gotta make sure how much money you got coming in, how much money you got going out, and at the end of the month, you know whether you made money, you lost money, or what happened. But if you're not tracking, you will not know what happened. And it's the same for your body. You gotta make sure how many calories are coming in, how many calories are going out, and what's happening to your body weight and your body fat along the way. So make sure you learn how to track, you do it consistently, so that at some point in your life, you will not have to rely on tracking applications and on weighing your food all the time. But go through the hard work at the beginning to learn what it takes to track your calories and to track your macros. Use cardio as needed. So you gotta remember that if you're in this channel, most likely you're not an endurance athlete. If you are, then the recommendation applies a little bit different to you, but you gotta use cardio as a tool. So the way I treat cardio is twofold. Cardio is a great way to maintain your cardiovascular health, and it's also a tool to maintain body fat levels or to lower body fat levels, right? Because when you do cardio, you increase your caloric expenditure, and that allows you to either consume more calories, or if you're in a caloric deficit, it's gonna make the deficit even bigger. So the way you use cardio is very simple. You use it as a tool, okay? If you're in a fat loss phase, you're gonna make sure you do enough cardio to hit your goals. If you're in a maintenance phase, you're gonna make sure you do enough cardio, again, to sustain your caloric intake and to maintain cardiovascular health. And the same thing when you're in a massing phase. So the bottom line is to use cardio as strategically to aid with body fat loss and with body fat maintenance and with cardiovascular health. 7th point, the most important one, the one that most people struggle with, is consistency. Consistency, people. You cannot expect to build a crazy body if you're not consistent. I've been training for 10 years, more than 10 years. My girl has been training for 6 years. And all the influencers you see on Instagram that are super jacked, that look super good, they've been training for a very, 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 very long time. So make sure you give yourself enough time to make progress. And I'm talking years, I'm not talking months, I'm not talking days, I'm talking years and years and years, okay? You gotta embark upon this journey with a long-term approach, with a long-term view. Now, you can make a lot of progress in the first couple months, especially if you're a beginner. But again, embark upon this journey with a long-term view, because you wanna make sure you stay healthy, you stay jacked, you stay in great shape for the rest of your life. You don't wanna get in shape, then lose it all, and then try to get in shape again, and then start a yo-yo effect that most people are in. So, do this consistently, create your habits, and sustain your habits for the rest of your life. And if you want some help with implementing these 7 tips, if you want help with building and creating new habits, then we can help you out with a one-on-one coaching program. All you gotta do is click on the link in the description. You're gonna fill out a quick 3-minute application. Let us know what you want to accomplish and what you're struggling with, and then you can book a free consultation with us where we'll tell you all the next steps. That is it for today. Julian here, signing off.